Currently, due to an improvised setup and a lack of working mic, I'm having my friend Zeno voice everything I wrote in the script in order to bring these things to light. I am the ex-community manager for Sorcerer Battlegrounds. If you're watching this, I can already assume you have some idea as to what I'm regarding all the recent drama. However, I feel that none of the videos posted about the topic so far have given an accurate retelling as to what happened. So even though I would have liked to remain silent, new things have come out that have made this impossible. As for the retelling, a GIF was made by people in a friend group server that I will be referring to as MMC. The GIF was poking fun at a member who was previously known for being racist. It wasn't actual racism, nor was there any racist intent. Now before I continue, let's get one thing clear. When I became community manager, I had posted something in the sub-announcements channel in the Discord stating that we wouldn't be banning people for off-platform behavior. alrage completely ignored this and went on to do his own thing, despite knowing about said policy. Anyways, alrage was in MMC at the time and had seen this GIF being posted and misinterpreted it as actual racism, and because of that, he had banned the people who had posted it there, as well as banning people of color for posting media in that server that contained the N-word. After hearing of this, I had tried talking to alrage in the tester server about the bans, and tried explaining that the GIF wasn't racist. However, me as well as another admin were met with nothing but pushback and refusal to listen. It wasn't until after this had things moved outside of the tester server and onto the main server. This is where things started to get pretty heated, and I want to state that I condone none of the members who were out to harass and make fun of alrage. However, there were people who were generally trying to reason with him and were only met with messages that completely showed a lack of remorse or even any acknowledgement of their argument. Once I saw how he treated his very own community, I was appalled and considered leaving along with another mod, Zeno. However, as this was all going on again, Bubbles, an admin for the server, was once again trying to get alrage to see reason in the tester server. There was a point where alrage admitted the GIF wasn't even racist, yet claimed that it was due to how they acted afterwards that he'd keep the ban. Eventually though, I left. I couldn't support alrage anymore and how he handled things, and none of the other staff could either. alrage completely went off the deep end, he had a power trip, and banned people who disagreed with him. People were banned for posting the Steam Happy emoji, and there was even someone who was banned for 3-stocking alrage in a different game. This was not okay. After I left, most of the other staff left as well. None of us liked how alrage was treating the people who gave him a platform and supported him. So, that's all for what happened initially. But unfortunately, there's still more to recap, although not as much. After the rest of the staff and I left, alrage was basically left all alone to manage the server by himself. He gave a contributor, Mel, the admin role so she could watch the server while he slept. But this is where things took a turn for the worse. Mel wasn't exactly happy with how alrage was treating people either, and because of that, she started handing out staff roles to a bunch of people. To sum it up, the server was raided and was in complete and utter chaos. Content from the testing server was leaked to the public. NSFW was sent in general chat of the server along with other things that shouldn't have been posted. However, despite what you are all led to believe, that former staff had little to no involvement in this. The new community manager that alrage hired after my absence was completely dishonest and explained the situation, in which I confronted him about. The night before his announcement was posted, he had reached out to me about the situation wanting to get my side. He asked about the racist GIF and the initial bans that were handed out, of which I explained everything he asked about to him. However, that was the only question he asked me there. There was no other attempt to get my side of things, and because of that, you were all fed misinformation. After explaining what he had asked about, he asked me about the possibility of returning to the staff team as an admin or as duo. I did not object to returning, only under the conditions that things with alrage would need to change, former staff who would want to rejoin would have a place on the team, as well as having a direct conversation with alrage. I was still unblocked, so I have no means of communication with him. On July 12th, I have gotten a message from the new community manager, Versus, saying that I had the green light to rejoin the staff team, yet none of the other staff would be allowed to return for having raided the server. I want to once again clarify, my staff team had barely any involvement with this raid, and such claims can be backed up by simply looking at the audit logs and seeing who was given permissions by mail and what it is they did with said permissions. It wasn't until after this that I was able to read his, and by extension, alrage's official response to the drama. You were all lied to and misinformed by someone who didn't even have a full grasp on the situation. I'm going to let you see Versus and I's conversation. So let's go through these things that you've read. Versus was completely unaware of who actually was behind the raid, and rather than investigating the audit log, which he has permissions to access, he blamed my staff team for it, despite only one person from it being involved. He expected my team to reach out to alrage about a raid some of us had no idea about, while some of us, including myself, were even blocked. Passed on misinformation in the staff team saying how SBG staff was just a giant friend group, despite this not actually being the case. Getting along well with one another and being openly communicative is not the same thing as a giant friend group. He hired an assistant who has been banned from SBG twice, one such time for telling a member of the community to hang himself, while actively trying to condemn my team for something we didn't have anything to do with. Made excuses for alrage, saying how he acted towards myself and the community was just a coping mechanism, despite the fact that he was acting like this before the community was even attacking him for how he acted. And then, when I called his explanation of things dishonest and brought up how he never asked me for anything else regarding the situation aside from the initial bans, as well as the fact that he had multiple things mixed up, I was ghosted. Something that alrage is also very well known for. This is your new community manager, someone who refuses to hold alrage accountable for his egotistical actions and behaviors, while trying to shield him from everything possible that might harm his reputation. Let's take a step back from the DMs though, and let's move back to the official response put out. Notice how despite my interview segment taking up a good portion of this video, none of it responded to in any capacity. I'll play the final segment of the video, which is the main thing I'd like to highlight.
Yeah, here, I actually do have a little bit of a message. To any aspiring tester or staff, it is not worth the trouble. Please do not bother working with alrage. It was probably the worst, Discord experiences of my life. And granted, this was the first time I've ever gotten involved with a Roblox community of any kind, but it is genuinely not worth all of the trouble that I went through. Do not make the same mistake I did. Keep far away. If you want to enjoy the game, do so. That is completely fine. Just do not get involved with alrage. It is not worth it.
Now originally, I had left a really big comment on the video that explained why I said this, and since it wasn't pinned, I'm sure hardly anyone saw it. I'll leave up screenshots of what all I said, so you're more than welcome to pause and read it if you want. However, I'll be restating most of what I said in here in this video. Working with alrage was generally the worst experience I've ever had when it comes to working with someone else. There was no communication when it came to him. He did things however he wanted without regard for anyone else other than himself, and was extremely lazy in every possible definition of the word. alrage would not want to handle anything at all in Discord. It took months of persuasion to promote me to a community manager so that there would actually be someone willing to make changes to the server without needing to wait months for alrage to do one simple thing that would have taken maybe 10 minutes to do. Even when I was first promoted to a moderator, I had to be the one that handled everything since alrage had absolutely nothing when it came to how rules should be enforced, let alone an actual proper rule set. Even when I was still in the server, I was completely forbidden from changing the outright terrible mess he had for rules because of some arbitrary reason alrage came up with. For a while back then, RH completely refused to listen to our pleas for help. We needed someone who would actually not neglect the server. The server didn't even have a proper auto mod for a while outside of Discord's auto mod, which was only set up to moderate curse words like fuck, shit, or ass. Nothing that would actually make a meaningful difference. There are also the matters that occurred while I was a tester that I should feel be spoken about. Any kind of suggestion, bug report, or anything relating to the game would mostly go unnoticed. RH would reply to anything over a few words with yap and ignore it. RH was so absent in his own dev server that it would mostly be used as another general chat for testers and staff team, as well as whatever contributor who was talking at the time. We would go through the suggestion channel all the time, trying to bring up additions to the game that would be nice to implement for them, just be ignored by him. There's also the matter of Kashimo. Kashimo's moveset concepts were provided by the testers since RH has generally not read JJK outside of summaries, and because of that, we were the ones giving move ideas to the animators. This was the only time our suggestions were heard, and it was solely because of the fact that without us, RH would have no idea what to do for the character. This was generally the most input we've ever had when it came to anything about the game. Really quickly, I want to touch on the matter of false promises. RH said he would pay us for our staff's work, but we were never paid. RH said that he would have set up a Discord bot allowing us to ban Roblox explorers from in Discord, but he never did so. On top of this, and his egocentric personality, I'm sure you might be able to understand why I think it was one of the worst experiences of working with someone else in my life. However, if that isn't enough for you, I have interviewed some of the former staff who left along with me to get their point of view on things.
I mean, it was very frustrating when we tried to get anything done for the server, like mainly the FAQ channel, since I was big on that, but he kept just saying no. Even with these ideas that I personally thought were pretty good that we came up with, he would just say no because and then it's just constant disrespect he's shown the community. Like, he doesn't see them as actual people and just a source of money. Like, how we would constantly say, "Oh, it's fine. I'll just get the game back. I'm the guy that earned the game back 37 visits or whatever." That's just my personal feeling on this situation.
Okay, so for the most part, he was. Okay, so he was usually friendly when it came to like one-on-one talking, but when it was anything that like was regarding like the server or in-game stuff, then it was always either being ghosted, taking really long to reply, but I mean that cannot be his fault, but or just usually was being completely ghosted. Or still took a lot of convincing to get anything out of him.
Honestly, just terrible. The experience overall, just anything staff related was just made plenty of times, multiple times harder than it really had to be.
My experience with RH was possibly one of the worst I've ever had to endure as a staff member in any community I've ever been a part of. First off, I want to make one thing clear. I am a very confrontational person. I am very direct in my approach to matters like these, and I do not hold back if I see something I believe is unfair. I behave this way mostly for the sake of the game and its community. As a result, my interactions with RH were often rather bitter and often got very heated on both ends. RH and I were often seen butting heads in dev chat over various decisions he had made, which I did not agree with. As a part of the team, me and many others in the team had to endure constantly being ignored, ghosted, constant disrespect, constant arguments, and we were forced to deal with many of the problems that arose from his archaic server design, besides having to deal with a lot more malicious and toxic behavior from RH. We were promised many things and given very little, if any at all. One of these is payment, which almost none of the staff members ever received. See, for two, one of them being a staff member that frankly did not do much for the team or the server, and the other being Shrine, but that was more like a one-time payment of hardly even 1% of what he was owed, in my opinion. No criticism, neither mine nor the staff members ever reached alrage, for his ego was far too big to ever attempt to step back to view the bigger picture.
Uh, I mean, the rules were a bit confusing at first, but when you made the new set of rules, it was easier. Mainly, I was pretty good with moderating the server. Not that I did it a lot, but not as much as other people did.
I mean, the main issues were like we had no ticket system, no actual channels that were actually helpful to people other than like exploiter reports and bug reports. Uh, People had to constantly DM us, and I had to keep all of my DMs open, and that honestly brought a lot of issues because it was full of trolls or people just sending like death threats or shit like that in DMs out of nowhere, and I was not able to close my DMs because we had no ticket system. I brought it up a few times, I think, and I was always ignored.
I'd say the biggest hurdles when it came to moderating the server was just a huge lack of communication, unwillingness to change, and he was just extremely stubborn about anything that he didn't like, even things that could possibly benefit his community and his game.
The biggest hurdles in moderating the server were four big ones. One, alrage, of course, and his ghosting, lack of in-game functions for staff, lack of basic server functions such as ticket bots or better role permissions, etc., and an abysmal rule set. For the second point, I'd like to mention that as staff members, we did not even have staff titles in-game, which led to a lot of issues during in-game moderation. Nor did we ever get a bot to do bans through Discord, so we had to join the game and sit in a private server 4 hours, slowly reviewing all the info and dealing out the bans one by one. Fourth point, frankly, the rule set we had was atrocious and very, very unorganized and very poorly formatted, courtesy of our supreme dictator Ulrich, of course, whom constantly refused to allow Scheinfeld to update the rules to be better formatted and allow for more fair moderation decisions. Of course, if this was done, Ulrich would no longer be allowed to ban and mute people for whatever he wanted to, so obviously he had to reject the idea.
I feel like I understand where he's coming from, but the previous staff, most of us didn't do anything. Like most I did was send a Steam Happy sticker dev server. I didn't like join the raid or whatever that happened. I know some of the previous staff were there, maybe like one or two, but most of us we kind of just left. Didn't want to do anything with that server.
Yeah, I don't I don't think that's right because I understand that the people who rated the server should write an apology if they want to maybe come back, but I was not part of it and I was against it and I was in no in no way aware of it at the beginning. And I don't think I should write an apology for something that, I tried to avoid.
An apology? Yeah, no, go fucking fuck yourself. Honestly, just either change and grow as a person or just fucking off yourself already.
Honestly, I find it incredibly disrespectful and yet another spit in the face of our team and his entire community. Once again, instead of stepping up, apologizing and admitting his fault, he finds yet another way to flip it back around on us, blaming his old team for all the things that happened without even bothering to look at the facts. simply shifting blame onto others, as per usual. I'd like to mention that no one in the staff team had any involvement with the raid, save for me, and I didn't do anything more than attempt to revoke some wrongful mutes that alrage did. Just 2 people, and I muted 2 dudes as a joke, and I got rid of those mutes, or at least 1. And I did not participate with any of the other things that happened in the raid. Yeah, I don't even condone like anything that happened. And as for the leaks, it was only 1 guy. Like no one else had any involvement.
Outrage. I feel like you should cherish your community more. You got some pretty cool people who like to play your game. If you could treat your game and people better, then that'd be cool. Also, watch the actual source material. Man. That'll help you with updates.
Well, the main thing is that whether I do go back as staff or not, because even if I was allowed, I am not completely sure. I think he should, other than trust more, have more trust in his staff. Just listen to them, and if he's against something, it's better to just say no than to completely avoid replying.
Anything I'd still like to say, plenty. I'm just sorry for anyone that's ever had the displeasure of knowing you. Behind that mildly successful dev career, you're just nothing but a narcissistic, egotistical, arrogant, and a poor excuse of a human being that lacks integrity in every sense of the word.
Many times you've said that I hate you and that I should respect you for allowing someone that hates you on the team. I never even hated alrage. I was very vocal about my frustrations with the game and the community as a whole because alrage was just not putting in the effort nor respect needed to handle the game as a whole, you know? It was very mismanaged and I was just really frustrated with that. But I never hated the guy. I was always there just to help him and, you know, help push the game forward. I was just there for the community. I wanted to help the community and to stop some of the corrupt shit he was doing. That's all. I really never even hated him. That's all I want to say. And RH, like, if you're hearing this, I highly doubt. Honestly, man, I don't think anyone hates you still. I don't think anyone's completely against you. I feel like if you were to actually apologize, turn things around, promise to make changes, and listen to your people, maybe your game would actually be respected. Maybe you would be respected. But you need to put that effort in yourself. You can't just expect everyone to bend to your will. That's unfair. You need to do some inner digging. That's all I have to say.
Now that the interviews are over, and you've heard from some of us, I'd like to quickly segue into addressing some of the few concerns and blatant misinfo I've seen and heard about while I've been out of the SBG Discord. Was the staff team really run by a friend group? No. Not only is it crazy to me that having good communication and being friendly with your coworkers can be considered turning things into a friend group, the only sort of friend group that there was my server that I invited people to if they were cool and were at least 18. Why did you unban Darknet if he was being racist? Prior to his ban, we were very unwilling to moderate for off-server behavior due to how quickly things can get out of control. The only reason why he was banned to begin with was because the only admin on the team who had never communicated with us took it into his own hands to tell alrage, and he was banned. In sub-announcements, there was still a message from me stating that people wouldn't be banned for off-server things unless it was in extreme cases. Why didn't you guys try to talk to alrage before everything happened? It was stated that the last time you DM'd alrage was a month ago. Although, it is true I wasn't regularly messaging him due to the fact that I was ghosted more often than not, our last messages were about him getting upset that I unbanned someone he banned for sending a Steam Happy emoji. He was privately confronted in the dev server and refused to listen to anyone. Why say that working with alrage was one of the worst experiences you've had, that you still initially agreed to join back as staff? I want to state beforehand that I completely rescind the statement I made about wanting to go back. It has been made evidently clear to me by lying and trying to cover up the situation that being around those kinds of people is not something I want to do. The only reason why I even agreed to join back was because the current replacement staff were horrid, and I thought that the community deserves to have someone who wouldn't outright lie to their faces about things. I want to end this video by stating that this isn't some personal vendetta I have against alrage. If not for the blatant misinformation spread by his community manager and by extension alrage as well, I would have just gone silent and everything and never looked back. However, I will not stand for my staff then to be put down when all we ever did was just give the community 100% of everything we had. With this all being said, I'd once again like to thank the community for being there to listen. I get this is probably a long video, and it sure as hell won't be easy to digest. But just remember, stay safe out there.